Welcome to day 5. I'm going to talk a little bit more today than I normally do. I realize I haven't been giving a lot of meditation instruction because all of you have some experience with meditation, or I assume you do if you haven't told me. But always feel free to type into the chat, and if you also just want to type in any special requests at this time, for the physical practice you can. I have like an idea of what I'm going to do, but I can always incorporate other things. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit today because I read this quote, and it's just really, really inspiring to me. Each and every one of us has the capacity to be an oppressor. I want to encourage each and every one of us to interrogate how we might be an oppressor and how we might be able to become liberators for ourselves and for each other. And that's from Laverne Cox. Love Laverne Cox. Encourage each and every one of us to interrogate how we might be an oppressor and how we might be able to become liberators for ourselves and for each other. I think this quote really hits for me, this thing about fighting fire with fire from yesterday from Huey P. Newton, and like when we feel that we're wrong, when we, the defensiveness that we come up with, the fire that comes up, right? And how can we actually take the time to recognize, where does the oppressor show up in me and how do I undo that? And that's what I think that these practices for me are really about, right? My activism practice is about my fire, and I use that fire in certain ways. And then this practice is about sort of settling in and saying, like, how do I show up as an oppressor? Even if it's just against myself, how do I talk to myself? All right, with that, I will let us move into some meditation time. I'll read it one more time before we start. You can find your long spine, whether that means that you're sitting, standing, or lying down, just so that your head can have some alignment with your heart and can have some alignment with your base, your pelvis. Each and every one of us has the capacity to be an oppressor. I want to encourage each and every one of us to interrogate how we might be an oppressor and how we might be able to become liberators for ourselves and for each other. Laverne Cox. So when you're ready, I invite you to just make your way onto your back, lying down. We're going to start really simply with the knees bent. You can bring your hands onto your belly and then maybe just take a couple breaths there. And just noticing the feelings that are in your body. What are you already feeling? So this idea of getting closer to understanding where the oppressor shows up in us, first we just have to be aware, right? So we're going to start with just the awareness in our bodies. So maybe taking a couple of breaths there, maybe doing a body scan, just checking out, is anything in pain? What is the energy, the edges, the textures that you feel in your body? And then when you're ready, I invite you to draw your knees into your chest. I saw the request for hips and lower back, so we will get to that for sure today. So drawing your knees into your chest and really using the strength of your arms to hold onto your knees so that there's like a softness in the lower body. And then maybe giving yourself a little rock. Yeah, and if you're not lying on your back, if you're doing this upright or in a chair, that's fine as well. And then we're going to lower the feet down to the floor. We'll take a twist here. So I'm going to move my hips a couple inches over towards the left. I'm going to let my knees and my feet come up and over towards the right. And then I'm going to open my arms into a T shape. And then I'm going to let my chin soften in the opposite direction of my knees. So my knees are to the right, my chin is to the left. And I'm just letting myself unravel here a little bit. And then maybe evening out the breath a little while you're here. And breathing in nice and smooth. And breathing out. And inhaling. And exhaling. And then we'll come over to the other side. Moving the hips. I'm going to move my hips over towards the right. Let my knees and my feet come up and over towards the left. And then opening again my arms out to T shape, letting my chin go in the opposite direction of my knees. If you want to stay longer, that's okay. I usually take this pose for quite a long time in the morning, but since we only have a limited amount of time together, I'm going to move us on fairly quickly. So this is a great one in the morning for the back because it really lets the back unravel. It gets us into a twist, but without having to do anything. It's really just the weight of gravity that draws you deeper the more you let go. And twisting with a long spine is just really healthy for the curvatures of the back, the flexibility of the back. All right, taking an inhale here. And when you're ready, a soft exhale. All right, we'll roll over onto the side and you can come towards child's pose. Now, if child's pose is hard for you first thing in the morning, sometimes it is for me. Sometimes I just take a little swing of my hips from side to side or kind of move my hips in circles a little bit so that I feel like I can get a little bit of kind of juiciness in my joints going, a little bit with the synovial fluids. And then I come back to rest my hips towards my heels. You could also be sitting up on pillows, resting your forehead down if that feels good. You could also have cushioning under your forehead. And then taking a couple breaths there to breathe into the lower back. Inhaling, drawing the breath, the awareness of your breath into your lower back. Maybe just exhaling and softening that place. And then one more, inhaling, drawing the awareness into your low back. And exhaling soften. And then when you're ready, you can draw yourself up onto your hands and your knees. We're going to take a swan pose today. So I'm going to draw my knee forward between my hands. I'm going to move my back leg back behind me. So it's not pigeon pose. I'm actually going to sit right on that heel or move my sit bone towards the heel. If it doesn't get all the way there, that's fine. So I'm sort of like balancing in the air. Yeah, can you guys see that? It's like the knee is forward, the heel is directly in line. And then I'm going to reach my back leg back. So I'm just getting a little openness in the hips. I'm going to inhale and lift the heart up. And then exhale, I'm going to let my forehead come down towards the floor. We're just going to do 2 more of those. Inhale, I push into my hands, I lift the heart up, I feel a stretch through the front of my hip. And then exhale, I can lower my forehead down. And then I'm going to do 1 more. Inhale, lifting up. Beautiful. Exhale, lowering down. And then I'm going to push into my hands, come back onto my hands and knees, and switch right out to the other side. So I'm going to go right knee forward between the hands. I'm sitting on the heel, sits bone towards the heel. If it doesn't get all the way there, that's okay. I'm going to wiggle my back foot back till I get a stretch in that back leg. I'm going to inhale and then exhale. Let my forehead come down. You may or may not feel a stretch, and that's okay. Inhale, lifting up, forehead, open heart. Exhale, tapping the forehead down. And then 1 more time when you're ready, inhale, lifting up. And exhale to tap down. All right, we're gonna push back towards the hands and knees. You could take a child's pose. If downward facing dog is a part of your practice, if that's comfortable for you, you can come into downward facing dog and start to open up the backs of your legs. If you're working in downward facing dog, a nice adjustment for the hips is to keep treading your feet back and forth, right? That gives a little movement to the SI joint on the back of the pelvis. If you're working in child's pose, you could just continue to draw the awareness of your breath into your low back. All right, 1 last pose to finish us off today. I can't do pigeon pose first thing in the morning, so I do the variation on my back. If you're familiar with pigeon pose, you can come into it. Otherwise, I'll show the back variation, which is to take a number 4 shape with your ankle over your knee and then to draw your opposite thigh in, so to get a stretch through the back of the hips. There's also a standing option, which is the option to just cross over in a number 4 shape. Bend your knees. You could use something in front of you to hold your balance. Just taking a couple breaths there. Maybe imagining that you can inhale and draw the breath down your spine into the place where you feel the stretch. And then as you exhale, the breath just dissipates it and lets it go. I'm going to let us finish out both sides. It's 9:15 in case anybody has to go right on time. Inhaling, breathing down the spine into that hip. And exhale, softening, letting that go. And just 1 more breath there. Inhaling, drawing the awareness of the breath down into the stretch. And exhale, letting it dissipate. And then really simply, when you're ready, just coming to the opposite side. And when you arrive in the opposite side, same thing. Softening into your breath, using the awareness of your breath to open the pose. You might also have some gentle movement, right? When I'm on my back in the morning, I usually like to rock from side to side a little bit. And I'm breathing there. Each and every one of us has the capacity to be an oppressor. I want to encourage each and every one of us to interrogate how we might be an oppressor and how we might be able to become liberators for ourselves and for each other. When you're ready, you can go ahead and draw the knees back into the chest, or you can let your feet come down onto the floor with the knees bent, resting on your back. Maybe bringing the hands onto the belly again. And then just a couple breaths here just to notice that you did something with your body in this last 10 minutes. And how does your body feel different? this beginning of awareness in our bodies and our minds is what helps us discover where oppression shows up in us. Where are we unkind to ourselves or to others? So it doesn't have to be a big thing this morning, but just noticing you did something with your body and something feels different now, and just being able to name that for a moment. All right, all that is our time for today. Thanks for joining.